The call to prayer still echoed across the minarets of Istanbul, but the soul of the nation had begun to shift. The Ottoman Empire, once a theocratic empire stretching across continents, was gone. In its place stood something entirely new, something few could fully grasp in the beginning: the Republic of Turkey. And at its center was one man, Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. Not just a general, not merely a leader, but a revolutionary who believed that salvation for his people did not lie in their past, but in severing from it entirely. In 1924, just months after the Republic was declared, Atatürk abolished the Caliphate, ending over 1,300 years of Islamic leadership. To many Muslims around the world, it was unthinkable. But to Atatürk, it was essential. The Caliphate, the Sultanate, the Empire, they were shackles. The Turkish people, he believed, had to be reborn. Suddenly, Islam was no longer the state religion. Sharia courts were dissolved. Civil laws based on the Swiss Code replaced centuries of Islamic jurisprudence. Friday, the traditional Islamic holy day, was replaced with Sunday as the new day of rest. Imams were placed under state control, and religious education was restricted or outright banned in many schools. Then came the symbolic but seismic changes. In 1925, the fez was outlawed. Atatürk called it a symbol of backwardness. Men were expected to wear Western-style hats. It wasn't just a hat, it was a public declaration of ideological loyalty. Women, too, were caught in the storm. Though the veil was never officially banned, it was actively discouraged. The state promoted images of modern, unveiled women smiling, working, voting, even dancing in public. These were not just lifestyle changes. They were state-engineered images of progress. In 1928, Islam was removed from the constitution as the state religion. The Quran, for centuries recited in Arabic, was now published in Turkish. The Adhan, the call to prayer, was ordered to be recited in Turkish instead of Arabic, a decree that would last until 1950. Mosques remained open, but their authority faded. Diyanet, a new government-controlled religious body, dictated what could be preached and by whom. Turkish identity was now measured not by faith, but by language, dress, and nationalism. Religion was privatized. Faith became something for the home, not the street. And yet, the transformation wasn't universal. In the villages of Anatolia, far from the secular heartbeat of Ankara, many Turks resisted quietly. The scarf remained. The prayer continued. The Quran was still recited in Arabic, behind closed doors. In these rural corners, modern Turkey felt distant, a dream, or a threat. But in the cities, the shift was undeniable. Coffee houses once full of bearded men in turbans were now frequented by men in suits, reading newspapers in Latin script. Women began to walk uncovered in Istanbul's main boulevards, their daughters attending the newly established secular schools. The revolution was fast, intentional, radical. Atatürk didn't ask the people to choose between religion and modernity. He chose for the man. He chose modernity. For some, it was liberation. For others, erasure. A tension was born in those years, a tension that still pulses in Turkish society today. Between faith and state. Between the call to prayer and the cry of the Republic. The veil may not have been banned, but it was pushed back by the flag. The Turkish flag waved proudly over mosques, courthouses, and schools. The Republic had achieved what few believed possible. It had reshaped a civilization. But beneath the surface of this modern republic, faith had not vanished. It had merely gone silent. By the 1950s, the pressure of enforced secularism began to wear thin. The Turkish call to prayer, the Adhan in Arabic, was restored by Prime Minister Adnan Menderes in 1950. Under immense public demand, that single move lit a quiet fire across the country. The people had not forgotten their faith. They had hidden it, adapted it, protected it. In rural Anatolia, prayer had never ceased. Quranic teachings passed from grandmother to granddaughter, father to son. Now, those voices returned to the public space hesitantly at first, then confidently. Mosques filled again. Quran schools re-emerged, unofficially at first, then formally allowed. The veil once discouraged began, reappearing in the streets of Istanbul, Ankara, and Konya. But this was not a return to the Ottoman past. It was something new, a hybrid Turkish Muslim identity born from contradiction. Women wore hijabs and studied engineering. Men prayed at dawn and worked in secular offices by day. A Muslim could now vote, run a business, dance at a wedding, and still fast in Ramadan. The identity was not absolute. It was negotiated. Still, the struggle continued. In 1980, the military coup brought a sharp return to secular control. Islam once again was viewed with suspicion, especially political Islam. Headscarves were banned from universities and public institutions. Female students were forced to choose education or religion. But the 1990s brought a shift, this time from the ballot box. A rising conservative class began to speak openly about faith in public life. And at the turn of the millennium, one name would change the game entirely. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, a former mayor of Istanbul and a devout Muslim. Erdogan understood something few did. Turks were tired of choosing between faith and progress. His party, the AKP, promised both. Under his leadership, the headscarf ban was lifted. Religious schools, imam hatip institutions flourished. Faith returned to public discourse, not as an enemy of the state, but as a pillar of identity. Yet modern Turkey is not simply religious or secular, it is both. It is layered, contradictory, and deeply human. Surveys conducted in the 2010s by organizations like Conda and the Pew Research Center showed fascinating results. Over 99% of Turks identify as Muslim, but only about 45% pray regularly. 58% say religion is very important in their lives, while about 15% say they never pray at all. About 37% of Turkish women wear the headscarf daily. But urban, educated women are far less likely to do so. Young people increasingly describe themselves as spiritual but not religious, or culturally Muslim without practicing all rituals in cities like Istanbul. It's common to see a woman in a full hijab and a woman in shorts walking side by side. One may be headed to a university, the other to the mosque. Both are Turks. Both are Muslim. Both are modern in their own way. This is the paradox of Turkey, a country where Atatürk's reforms and Islam coexist in tension. Never fully resolving, always adapting. The Turkish skyline is layered with contradictions: Ottoman domes, modern skyscrapers, ancient minarets, and neon signs. Beneath that skyline walks a people still asking the same question. Their ancestors asked a century ago, what does it mean to be Turkish and Muslim? In today's Turkey, faith is not gonna butt, it is evolving. Generations born after the revolution have inherited a complex identity. They live in a country where the Quran and the Constitution coexist, where secularism is law, but religion is deeply rooted in culture and memory. Walk the streets of Ankara or Izmir, and you'll meet young Turks who identify as Muslim but never attend mosque. Some fast during Ramadan for tradition's sake, but do not pray. Some say Inshallah before every meal, yet reject organized religion. Others, particularly in rural areas and conservative provinces, still follow strict Islamic practices, praying 5 times a day, observing dress codes, and resisting modern influences. This division is not just urban versus rural, it's generational. A growing number of Turkish youth, according to multiple surveys, describe themselves as deists or non-believers, even while identifying culturally as Muslim. A 2020 Conda study revealed that among Turks aged 15 to 29, about 28% said religion was not very important to them. Roughly 7 to 10% openly identified as deist, agnostic, or atheist, a significant increase compared to previous generations. Yet at the same time, religious conservatism remains powerful. President Erdogan has increased funding for Diyanet, the government's religious authority, which now commands a budget larger than several ministries combined. Religious television channels and sermons are widely broadcast. Quranic education has expanded, and public schools often emphasize Islamic moral teachings. This paradox shapes daily life. A family may gather for a Quran recitation at a funeral, and then share memes mocking clerics on TikTok. A teenager may wear a hijab proudly to school, but listen to Western pop music and attend co-ed parties. A man may drink alcohol and still defend the honor of the Prophet with fierce devotion. There are also rising tensions. Secular Turks fear the erosion of Atatürk's legacy. Religious Turks feel marginalized by urban elites. Court battles over headscarves, mosque construction, and education continue to spark national debate. And yet, in the middle of this, millions of ordinary Turks navigate their faith quietly, with dignity and contradiction. They are neither zealots nor heretics. They are not torn between East and West. They are their own center. To be Muslim in modern Turkey is not to follow a script. It is to live in layers. Heritage, resistance, compromise, faith, and modernity sticks together in the fabric of daily life. Turkey remains a country where a mosque can share a street with a bar, where the call to prayer echoes over rooftop cafes, where faith is both a whisper and a roar. It is not a clash, it is a coexistence, fragile and ever-changing. The revolution ended a century ago, but the question it raised still lingers. In a land where the crescent moon and the secular star shine side by side, how does a nation pray, and progress?